It takes a cry for aid to get them running, dashing through enemy fire to reach the wounded in time. Hi, I'm your host Heatwave, and in today's episode, we are exploring the Inductii medics and Apothecaries. Lieutenant, is it safe to cross yet? Sorry? Is it safe to cross the street? We want to move the wounded. Yeah, it's clear. My thanks, Lieutenant. Welcome back to the Wings of Fire spin-off series, Empire of Pareena. In today's episode, we'll be exploring the Imperial Army Medicae detachments. Each line battalion holds one company strength detachment responsible for the health and well-being of the entire battalion. In battle, many apothecaries risk their lives to help save their kin or recover the dead. But it doesn't stop here. Behind the lines, in aid stations and field hospitals, the dutiful staff of the Medicae company work their best to patch up and save the most critically wounded. We'll start with recruitment. Like all inductii, apothecaries will undergo their training at Lavrak, but if they hold any training or experience in medicine, they'll be put aside to form the Medicae company. But dragons who have also experienced working in the meat production industry are also recruited as apothecaries. Their experience in seeing chopped up flesh and organs has made them desensitized to what they might see on a battlefield. Now, apothecaries are still soldiers, they're still inductii, and they are still expected to engage the enemy, and are trained to do so. But they also attend classroom instructions, learning first aid techniques, what plants are used in medicine, how to make makeshift medical gear, and how to understand the toll that combat may take on soldiers. Of course, before the War of the Red Sands, medical trainers didn't know what weapons the SSG carried and how they would interact with the dragon body. As mentioned before, each line battalion contains a single Medicae company. The company doesn't follow the standard structure of a company because of its specialization. A Medicae company doesn't have a set in stone size. While well stocked in manpower, there is no known size of a single company. The best I could find was around 100 to 250 personnel was the benchmark for a Medicae company. The company is led by its corresponding company headquarters section. The section is led by a major or a captain. Then he is further surrounded by at least 20 staff and orderlies. These inductii within the HQ section are responsible for pushing the papers, making the requisition orders, and counting the numbers. While not apothecaries, the staff at the top handle all the background stuff to keep this Medicae company running. The company then breaks down into its sub-platoons. Each platoon isn't really a platoon. It doesn't even have a platoon leader, but it's just big groups of apothecaries assigned to one of the various roles that the Medicae company conducts. There are at least 2 platoons of field apothecaries. The field apothecaries is the standard line medic of the Imperial Army. It's their job to patch up the wounded, extract the critical, and lay the dying to rest. In combat, they'll fight back, and fight hard, but at the first cry for help, the apothecaries will risk their own safety to get to the wounded. Apothecaries travel in duos, and are spread across the battle lines to best use their skills. Or, more commonly, each rifle platoon should have at least 2 apothecaries attending it. The reason for traveling in pairs is simple. It allows the apothecaries to use the added stretcher. These platoons are the only field personnel of the company. The next formation contains the remaining apothecaries. Their job is to set up and man the many aid stations, field hospitals, and casualty recovery stations. When a casualty is retrieved behind the lines, they will pass through an aid station or casualty clearing station. It's at the aid station that casualties are assessed. If critically wounded, such as losing a limb, having any part of their body that's ruptured open, or has a foreign body inside them, or has suffered significant trauma, will be sent behind the lines to the field hospitals. If none of these have been met, the aid station will patch up any wounds that apothecaries can't do right there and then. The poor inductee will be given a short rest, maybe some food if he's lucky, before sent back up the lines to battle. Typically, an aid station is located near a rifle company headquarters, and it's just a few tents, some foxholes, something that can be moved and taken down quickly to relocate if in danger. The larger field hospitals is more like a tent city, holding the vast majority of personnel of the Medicaid company and the equipment, space, and apothecaries to meet the critically wounded. Unfortunately, the Empire hasn't developed very advanced medical science. Some casualties who have had over 40% of their body destroyed usually can't be saved. Most dragons who have lost a limb will make a full recovery, but mass blood loss, destroyed organs, or open skull wounds, the apothecaries have no choice but to make these poor casualties comfortable before euthanizing them. If a casualty can be saved, they'll be brought into a tent space where apothecaries can administer their aid, removing shrapnel, patching open wounds, and helping in any way they can. Post-aid, casualties are given a space to rest until they recover, and then get pushed back into combat. If an inductee survives their wounds but can't return to the fight, they will be sent home. Hopefully they can find peace there. The final formation of a Medicaid company are the tombs. This grisly formation has the unfortunate job of collecting, cataloguing, and cremating the dead. These apothecaries will collect the gold bracelets from fallen inductee to catalogue their names. The tombs are also responsible for collecting the bodies of the dead, cremating them, and setting up mournings for them. Let's break down the extra equipment the apothecaries carry. Of course, they carry all the normal equipment that an inductee would, with a few extra things. An apothecary can be quickly identified by the use of white on their armor, mostly around the helmet and greaves. On the back armor, apothecaries wear a red helix. These helixes can be found elsewhere on the body. As mentioned earlier, for every 2 apothecaries, 1 will carry the folded stretcher. Yes, an apothecary will fight while carrying the folded stretcher. It is simply strapped underneath the wing, mounted to the body. The apothecaries also carry a multi-purpose saw. This saw is used to cut off damaged armor or straps, cut bone, and if heated up, can use to solder a wound close. Finally, apothecaries carry a wide variety of medical plants, bandages, wound pads, saps, and antiseptic creams in a large pouch on the front of the breastplate. Field apothecaries are trained to always follow a basic first aid procedure while in combat. This is called DRACE, which stands for DRACE, or Danger, Response, Airway, Control, and Evacuation. We'll start with the D. Danger. Is the casualty in danger? Are they in an open area? Do they need to be moved? Can they be moved? Apothecaries will try anything to move a casualty, either by slinging them over their backs, using the stretcher, or dragging them slowly to cover. Response. Is the casualty responsive? Can they talk, squeeze a talon, move, show any sign of life? Airway. Is the casualty able to breathe without struggling? If the casualty is not breathing, the apothecary should begin to push the heart manually, if possible. Control. What are the wounds? Are they critical? Can these wounds be controlled? This is the main part of an apothecary's approach to care. In their training, apothecaries are told the biggest enemy to a casualty is time. How long till they bleed out and succumb to their wounds? An apothecary must assess the wounds and how to control them. Some minor injuries can be solved right on the spot, putting an inductee back into the action. For mass hemorrhaging wounds, an apothecary will attempt to stop the bleeding by pushing a compression pad and bandage onto the wound. If the bleeding can't be held back, an apothecary will attempt to cauterize the wound. Dusting a thin layer of gunpowder over the wound and adding a gentle spark, the burning should close the scales, sealing the wound. And then finally, evacuation. Does the casualty need to be evacuated to behind the lines to receive more advanced care, or can he be patched up in the control phase? But this job was not without great loss. During the War of the Red Sands, the Imperial Army's post-war census foretold that 18% of combat casualties were from apothecaries, just trying to do their job in the field. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, why don't you consider leaving a like and a comment and staying tuned for more, or checking out the channel for some of our other episodes. This is Heatwave, signing off.